Welcome to Set to Shelf, the Movie Props Podcast. Join Dan and Alexander as they explore the world of movie memorabilia, from blockbuster auctions and passionate collectors to industry news and conversations with the professionals who bring it all to life. If it's on set or on the shelf, we're covering it.
Welcome. All right, we are back. Episode 3 of From Set to Shelf, the Movie Props Podcast. Alex, we have not been canceled yet, which is a good sign. This week, we are joined by well-known horror collector Andrew Merget. Andrew, thank you for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me. Excited that you guys are doing this.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're gonna dive right into it. Andrew, you collect horror props. What first drew you to collecting horror props in general? And do you remember the very first piece that started it all for you?
Yeah. So, I'm a collector that joined, unfortunately. I know some collectors are like, oh no, I'm one of those, but I joined during the pandemic. So I wasn't collecting movie props prior to that. Before that, I had been collecting like autographs on replicas. So I had a Jason hockey mask that has all the actors that play Friday 13th on it. I had a Freddy Krueger glove with the two main actors, Robert Englund and uh, the Nancy actress, Heather Langenkamp on it. And then the pandemic hit, and there was this huge advertisement for a screen used Jason mask. And as a kid, um, I loved going to Blockbuster. I would actually be like dropped off at Blockbuster. My mom would do errands, and I would just look at the horror aisle, and those VHS tapes, with all the Jason masks, they were just nostalgic for me. And so when I realized, I was, oh my God, like I can actually get the real mask, and I saw the estimate, um, was very, very discouraged. However, I was able to get enough funds during the pandemic and just not traveling, and I got enough money for the estimate. And I thought that was, if I had I've had the estimate, I would easily win it. Right. So I thought that's how this goes. I don't know anything about auctions. I validated, look like that's how I think I started joining the movie prop group of Facebook, some of the other things. And I was obvious that this was the real deal. Right. And so it was rare, but I thought like if I had the estimate, it was good. If you remember that auction, the actual mask went for 200 and I think $25,000. I think the estimate was like $20,000. So it within the first couple seconds skyrocket past that. And so I realized I need to recalibrate what I was going to do with my prop collecting. So did some research, and the first couple props I bought were actually like scripts, and smaller costume items, things like that. But my most memorable prop that I first bought was the Cabin the Wolf Merc. That was the holy first, my first one. Um, yes, yeah, I was able to get that off um, eBay, and actually, so and validated. So that was pretty cool.
Oh wow! And then I actually just recently watched Cabin in the Woods. Great film, great film, very campy. It definitely has a cult following. And stuff from that film you don't really see pop up often. And especially that merman. Yeah, you have pictures on it. You've posted it before. It's a great piece. Practical effects. It's something you definitely adds to the the viewing experience. So it's awesome you have that.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And initially, because of the discouragement of um with the Jason mask, I just decided like, well, this is what I really want. I saw this as a kid in Planet Hollywood, but I'm not gonna ever be able to get that. So I started collecting like everything I loved. Like so I did like some Marvel stuff. I did like Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy. I did like a lot of these other pieces. Um, but over time, um, I realized that it was gonna be way too large because every auction was something else I wanted. And, my advice is to keep a genre or a film that you really love. It will keep you focused, because I kept thinking, being new to it, this is gonna be so rare, not another one's gonna come up. and then just new stuff for my favorite films just keep coming up, and just I love movies. It, in the beginning, I was very all over the place, and didn't really have a idea on how to display it initially, and was just collecting it because I was like, okay, these are so rare, I'm not going to see this again. And I think I was a little bit too like completely all over the place at like every auction, rather than as I learned as I got my bigger pieces, um, waiting for more like the piece that was iconic, um, and focusing on just getting that once in maybe a year. And I think all these small pieces I was able to use to sell to get more of the iconic ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. A lot of it, like you mentioned collecting different titles. Like each title essentially, it has each title has like tiered pieces. So there's tiered levels within titles of like A props, B props, C props, and it's if you're collecting from a wide variety of franchises, some people can afford to do it, but for people who don't have the biggest budgets, you really if you zero in and focus on one franchise or genre, it's more manageable that way.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's like the
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the path for the collectors. They kind of start small and then they sell the small stuff, to get the bigger pieces. That seems to be the path for in the hobby. So, except like for example,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was saying like it just I think there is a good resource with the Facebook groups and kind of searching. And you can kind of like search what's been like you can search a movie title and kind of see, and you can if you see like hundreds of things from that title versus not, you what you'll find is I think, and this is often you'll see these posts where people will say, I really want to collect from Scream, Friday 13th, Halloween, It, um bigger Nightmare on Elm Street. And people go like, well, what's your budget? Because it's going to be like that's going to be huge, and so um I think it's with the auction prices and things like that, I think it's like it would be almost impossible for the general person to start there. I think so. Or if you're starting there, you're not going to get a Freddy glove or a Jason mask and things like that. So um, I would say collect what you love. And if you have the ability to upgrade, that's a big part of the process.
So, Andrew, what is your favorite horror movie or franchise, and what do you have from that movie?
Yeah. So my favorite horror movie, I don't have anything from. And I'm not sure I'll ever get anything from it, unfortunately. It's my favorite horror movie is The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Um, it seems to be not just from a horror collector standpoint, it seems to be like even larger collectors of just movie props tend to love that time period of collecting and collect movies from that time period. Um, Not a lot of stuff comes out from it. I tried to get a vest that was out at a prop store auction recently, maybe in the last 2 years. And even then it went beyond what I thought I wanted for that costume where I like seeing stuff I'm going to spend a large amount that you would be instantly recognize that it was from that movie, and so I'm kind of torn about what I would ever get from that because it becomes really rare. However, um, my favorite horror franchise is Friday the 13th. I've loved the character Jason since I was a kid, as I mentioned earlier, and I was lucky enough to get a screen matched Jason Goes to Hell mask, which is my personal preference on the favorite look. Jason to me is like the equivalent of like Spider-Man or Batman in terms of like villains and stories, and each episode is like there as it went along. It got more zanier and crazier of their interpretation of a campfire tale. This is the story of Jason, and this is what he looks like, and it's almost like you could tell here, like the writer and director kind of visualizing it. And I like the battle worn looked
Yep.
in kind of look to it, and that mask is very similar to the Part 7 one, and just it's beautiful. I love looking at it, and I was able to get a machete that screen matches to a large portion of Freddy vs. Chase, which I enjoy. So it looks a really nice display. I have like the machete and the mask next to each other.
What did you think of Freddy vs. Jason? A lot of people have mixed reviews of it. I love it. I have a Freddy I have a Freddy hat from the film. I think it's fun, that film.
Yeah, it's such an interest. Friday 13th is a very interesting film franchise and fan base, and people like it's very interesting. Like, so you'll have like a movie like when Jason Goes to Hell comes out, everybody like hates it, but then now there's like a huge cult following that loves it. Same thing with Freddy vs. Jason. And in fact, I remember because this is when I was the most recollection at an age to see in theaters when the Friday 13th remake came out. Everyone was so upset with it. They were like, "This is yeah." And I remember the backlash was like people like in the fandom and sites like Bloody Disgusting and all these like this is before like TikTok and social media horror influences, but they were all like really against the remake, and now like most people that are millennials and generation alpha and things like that are thinking that the remake is actually the best one in the franchise. So
Oh, wow.
I love Freddy vs. Jason. I can't believe they actually made it. It's almost like it's an insane idea that they were able to do. It's like there's no like more iconic characters like in modern day that could have done this. It's literally the equivalent of like Chucky and Michael Myers fighting. I mean, what's crazy about the movie is that it had like developmental hell and production hell and went through like 15 screenwriters. And the script to me that they chose ends up being like, it seems like it would be the most obvious. Like, some people forgot about Freddy, Jay starts killing and then they fight. It's a little bit like WWF, WWE kind of fighting at one point. But that's why I think it's like, but that's the fun part of it. I think that's the rewatchability of it, how ridiculous it is. I really enjoy it for what it is. I separate myself with these movies and comparing it to what it's like when they did like part 3 or part 4. Significantly part 6 is very different than the earlier parts. Part 1 is very different than the other movies. So, um, I want to aside about the Friday 13th franchise too is that, as movies have gotten more gory and slashers, especially like the Terrifier franchise, which is getting really big. I've seen a lot of people that like love Terrifier kind of bash sometimes like Friday 13th and not really understand it. But at that time, Friday 13th movies were like crazy, like on the news and parent groups trying to like at rating boards ripping apart these movies. So these movies kind of almost somewhat look like PG-13 movies now, but I believe Jason, crawled so Terrifier could like. Yeah. I still think the hockey mask is.
Yeah, no, I mean, like that. Even this, like the silhouette of the hockey mask itself. It's synonymous with horror. People know what that is. So it definitely made its a cultural impact on this pop culture in general. It's pretty remarkable. I think. I mean, Andrew, you're more well versed in the franchise than I am. They just rebooted more or less the kind of new chapter in Jason. They redesigned Jason, right? I think was it Greg Nicotero was involved with that.
Yeah, they've developed like the Jason universe. Um, there it seems like maybe even more than one, but they made a like a vignette or a commercial with Angry Orchard. They are supposedly making a movie. Um, one part of that and getting back to the props of it, I think they did make a big mistake there, is that I saw a comment recently about one that maybe it is Greg Nicotero or somebody else that developed a new Jason mask. And I thought it was a big cop out that they said, you know, um, anytime you change anything for fans, they're gonna hate it, kind of thing like that. It was kind of like that. Like I think it was the biggest cop out. The, I, if you look at the Jason X mask and like the Jason Space Uber Jason, actually they have a lot of fans of that look, but they made the product in the film first, then there was fans, and they're doing the mask and saying this is the mask that you're gonna love, that with no film associated with it. I actually don't think the mask itself, when I saw it in the trailer, looked that bad. I think in general it looks very like AI Fortnite kind of thing, but that's kind of what they're going for. They've always done that. They've done action figures, that kind of stuff like that. But I think they're not understanding that there is literally no association with this look of Jason. And so the fans are not going to be like, this is amazing until they see a product that is associated with that they would like.
That's your take. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, it's interesting where when franchises get rebooted. I mean, like Blumhouse just bought the rights to Saw, so who knows what their take's gonna be on it. So it's. I mean, I understand like fans have their preconceived ideas of how they grew up with the films. The Star Wars franchise, people have their expectations, but I mean, things are going to change over and over because otherwise, this can be it's to repeat. It could, I mean, burn out. But again, people, generations age out, new generations come in, so it's a lot of it's a balancing act, which it's hard to appease everyone. So I totally get that.
Yeah, and I think like they're gonna make a new movie at some point. Um, IP is obviously king, and so I could even as we're going into, maybe I would argue maybe even people that have nostalgia for movies is maybe I'm like one of the last generations that are gonna have that. Um, but I still know who Dracula the Wolfman is and Richard Lagoon. I would argue those 80s characters. Um, we're talking about the 1980s and we're in 2025. We're talking about a movie that hasn't been a franchise that hasn't had a movie since 2009, and people are still upset when they change the look of the mask. So that alone shows I think the holdover of fandom toward horror and the characters and Spirit Halloween and all the things that I think horror has. You have these generation of people that went to um, Disney World and all these vacations. I think, and people just love movies, and so then you have these um, generations of people that love films and even horror characters. That's a big part of it, and they want to remember that feeling of seeing um, Jason video cassettes, Blockbuster the first time again.
Yeah, it's a great point. You mentioned you touched on holidays. I think that's too a big indicator of people were buying or just how more or less kind of how I view certain aspects of collecting itself. It's for this Halloween, they always put the classics are always getting played on television, Freeform or whatever, doing 31 Days of Halloween. So I think people should understand like when you're buying maybe to keep that in mind. If this film is getting played over and over again each year after Halloween, for Halloween, new people are reintroduced to it, whether it's new audiences, new people. So, it's always going to be around. It's versus like other films that maybe get a release and you release one year would never get played out on TV again. So I think it's like Nightmare Before Christmas. That's just played over and over again. It's like has a lot of significance to it, a lot of weight to it. And it's something that holds a lot of value.
Yeah, I think that's where it's like really like the word of caution is like I think sometimes people get uh especially with how the numbers started increasing, like a little bit too much thinking they're gonna make everything an investment for every franchise. I see, I think I've seen this with some of the VIP fan auctions, to be honest. Like sometimes people like let's say like a movie like Thanksgiving, which I think is great. But and I actually have a John Carpenter mask. I have one of like only I think two of the hero axes that were in that.
Oh, sweet.
That's really nice. So I had the hero axe and the hat and that and but I honestly don't look at that at the same value as the iconic characters. Yeah, I just the same like Hard Eyes. I think those are great, but there was movies like that coming out. Like there was a Valentine was a Valentine's Day or Valentine was a movie around that time of I Know What You Did Last Summer. So that mess is really cool. Um, and there's going to be maybe there's one of them that comes up. You might get two bidders that go crazy with it, but I think you have two different ways. I collect like iconic ones that I think could be like investment long term. I think they'll always hold the value. And then I have just like stuff that I just really wanted from movies that are a little bit more they're my favorite horror movies. Like I have like a couple things from The Descent. One of them I did buy in a recent prop store auction. Because that just does not come up. I've contacted the IMDb list of any emails I could find and stuff for that. Um, I know what one thing is that's a cool little small model set decoration of something, but for that stuff, I just enjoy that because I love that film. I watch it once a year, and so I think there's a two directions that you have to kind of look at. Is that I spent a lot of money on a art department reference bust that was like one of five made, but I'm not sure like that. Like I probably paid its max it could ever be worth. I think. Um, so you just have to kind of be aware of that. If you're buying like a phone case from Scream 6 and thinking in like 20 years, that's going to be 4 times that. Like I would say like as a bigger car collector, that would be actually less likely for me to get. And that's more of an introductory piece. Instead of just be aware when you're bidding that up, just because it's all out at the same time. This is my experience with it.
Do you have like a
Yeah, no,
yeah? Do you have Andrew? Do you have like a dream prop that somebody tells you like you can have this one item, anything in the world from your favorite film or any film? What would you pick? Like right away?
Yes. So, is it a prop that
Any proper cost, anything like yeah.
some props that I know have been destroyed, and I wish I could have got access to, versus like, is there a prop that like I know I could acquire? Okay, yeah. Which way?
both. Go both.
Okay, sounds good. So, the most desirable prop I would ever have is like I really like the idea of having different versions of Jason. I love the Sackhead mask. I like the remake Sackhead mask and like the original part two. I just think it's like a story of his character. I love to have like this is in the deal world. This is not going to happen. But I would love to have like the Pamela Voorhees mother's like head from the first one, the second mask, the evolution of the part three mask, and part four mask. Those were actually used, but destroyed. The part three mask was the studio actually they put it out as like a display and in the sun, and it literally just ruined the mask, and then they threw it.
Oh,
Knowing
lovely.
yeah, so that mask would have been really valuable because that's the first mask Jason wears. At that time they didn't have like even the multiples that they do now. I'm saying the same budgets the way they looked at it. So, that would be amazing. My favorite movie of all time isn't a horror movie. It's Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I own a singular costume from that now. It's a screen match actually for Tom Hanks when he's robbing one of the banks. He gets shot. It has like a blood kind of arm and like that. And I would love to get like his Tommy gun and the case for that movie. So that's outside of horror, which is out there. And I love to have a Nightmare Before Christmas puppet, like a Oogie Boogie or the werewolf or one of the smaller characters. That'd be great. I loved that movie as a kid. So, but that was something that I looked to try to grab, and I got outpriced every time on that. And I was like, if I went to that, I'd have to sell what I was already doing. And so, um, I feel like I basically have every single iconic character now. I have a Michael Myers, flashback, mask that was production made with
Yep.
the kills, um, costume that I photo matched. I know I showed you that, Dan. I have a Pennywise, part one. I actually was able to screen match the appliances, the behind the scenes photos. I didn't realize that there actually is differences in the cracks and Oz FX, I believe his Instagram is, the special makeup effects artist. He's even doing the Welcome to Derry show. He posted all these like recent uh close-ups of different cowls that Pennywise wore, that Skarsgård wore, and I could screen match it now. So
Wow, that's awesome.
exact. So I'm hoping as I'm being preserve it. It's a preserve. I hope it doesn't like that screen match eventually deteriorate, but it's cool. I know, part one spring used. I have a wig that he wore, which is like from Warner Bros. Really difficult to get. Um, Chucky, I have a Child's Play 2 melted screen matched Chucky. Chucky's really cool because he gets killed a lot in these crazy ways and always comes back. So my favorite one of that is part two, and I screen matched and like he melted in the assembly line. And I have a Cult of Chucky screen match doll. Uh, and I have a couple stuff from Conjuring. I have one of the Bibles. Not screen matched, production made, used for set rehearsal, but really rare to get stuff from the first two Conjuring movies. So really happy to get that. So I'm trying to think of like the things that are like I look at them like I can't believe I have this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it sounds, see pictures you post online. They're incredible pieces. Definitely not easy to acquire, whether it's an auction or tracking down via crew member, especially crew members, because those are very slow burns, more or less, most of the time. So when those do hit, it's well worth the time and effort put into it. So kudos to you because it's incredible. Um, and speaking of the pieces you just rattle off, or ones you haven't touched on, has any come with unexpected story or surprise, like something you didn't know, maybe until after you acquired it?
I'm just taking a moment because there are some stories. I'm just thinking unexpected.
So I know you touched on the screen match that you found on the
Yeah, well,
ride.
that's I think those things come into it. Like it's like maybe I thought this was like production used, but I didn't have the match, and I think the digging that's pretty good. I've also been disappointed in the opposite way. So I had got from VIP fan auction, um, and this is a mistake. This is on me. So this is good. This is why I think these podcasts are kind of more relatable to somebody that's just collecting and kind of learning mistakes. I didn't screen match the Thanksgiving mask, and it was advertised screen used, comes from letter of authenticity from the studio, right? And it says screen used in a scene where the deputy sheriff says like everybody like loves these John Carver masks, and he pulls over his mask, he wears it in this diner scene in the movie Thanksgiving. And it said this is the screen used versus they had sold other ones in that scene that said like on set and stuff like that. But there's like black dots on mine that don't match this dots on theirs, and I know it's not the one on screen. So,
Ah,
things like that are really disappointing. Yeah, because I should have done more homework on that. But at that time, the auction didn't have the 4K release yet. So that's where it becomes a little challenging. So I'd have to go back into the movie theater and I guess like record my phone and zoom in. So I think that's where it's just an opportunity to get it. But I wanted the axe and the mask together kind of thing. Um, so that was kind of unexpected. I think sometimes, um, my like the things that found most enjoyable are actually getting stuff from crew members that I knew were very legitimate. Like, I got a couple key special effect props from Barbarian, which is great because that now the second movie Weapons is blowing up. Really love that movie, a top movie for me. And that connection um also got me access to a leather-faced green used mask
oh, wow.
from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from Legendary's Netflix. I actually love the look. For me, when I collect these characters, I'm more into the icon and my favorite look of that character than honestly sometimes that like it's my favorite version of the movie. Yeah, I know it sounds like I think some people will be very different. They're like, I only like Friday 13 Part 6, so it only get the Jason from that look. I think these guys as these like are like like our generation of campfire tales and like just like we Greek mythology have these gods and stories that I think of that as like these kind of like Marvel kind of characters. That's where I think of these icons. And so I'm looking for the coolest look. I love the way that Leatherface looks in the legendary production of TCM. Um he just it's like this kind of like sad face. It's great. It's got the Velcro, the provenance is perfect on it. I have the crew member on set with it painting with the guy production of that one. It had so much blood on it, so I can't. And it's such a dark movie. I know the scene it's in. It's like he's running and stuff with blood all his face. It's impossible to scream at. It's like that. So much blood coming on the mask, and it's like dried now. But it has amazing provenance, and I never thought I'd actually get a leather face mask because most of my stuff that I acquired had been auctions because it was so difficult. Um, you guys still see me?
Yep.
Okay. It was just so difficult to pay these fees continuously. So I thought I was like, you know what, I'm happy with what I got. I'll probably pull back and just collect for something that I think is really special or maybe smaller things. But that was a real surprise getting access to a network of props that I didn't even realize I could be offered and were even be offered to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing too about these crew guys. Sometimes it's they might be offering the piece you really want, but then also maybe like 6 other things that you really don't want. But from my experience, like just pull the trigger, buy it, because if you kind of turn it off, you reject the other pieces you don't want. It kind of shuts the door, and you more or less kind of shoot yourself in the foot. So it's awesome that you were able to make that crew connection, and open the door for other pieces, because that's definitely a home run.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you kind of have to not give up a little bit. You have to pester people. In my opinion, that's
Oh yeah.
yeah. I think that you have to be like reminding them because like they honestly they're they don't care. You're a stranger, so you kind of have to show that you're legitimate. You have to pay right on time. You have to, and then but then they trust you a little bit. I think initially, Proc, like I was always like, man, like I wish I had some of these connections, some of these other individuals have. Um, and so we get one. I was happy. Yeah, that's really the only one I have like that. Everything else we bought privately or through auction. Unfortunately, I bought a lot of things through auction, so that means that prices were a little bit like, you know, jaw dropping sometimes. But it's part of the process.
It's always the fees, the good old buyer's premium that'll get you, which
Yes,
is
I literally
an eye opener.
from 4 years ago, I would be able to purchase some of these things because a lot of these things were at my limit, and I got it. Like the Jason mask that I got, I knew I was like that was the end. There was no,
Yep.
because it was gonna be like it was not gonna be possible for me to raise the pot. So it was interesting because I went for the first one prop store, and then Mario sold his collection prop store, and I was a phone bidder on all three. So he must have loved me, to be honest with you, because I know for a fact it was only me and another person bidding for the last like $20,000 of the mass in a row. So it was like it was a part 6, it was a Jason Takes Manhattan part 8, and there was a Freddy vs. Jason mass. And every one I was underbid. And I saw same exact point. So that's why all three of those sold the same exact level. And did seem like the last one was even a different bidder because of their cadence of it. I don't think it was the same bidder for each one. And I've never seen them surface. I don't know where those are actually. Those ones that first saw, and then Heritage, did the Jason Goes to Hell mask, which I think is the one I have is way better than the one that was sold for the first one. But first to market usually like a one for a while. So we know that lost it up.
Yeah, exactly. First market pieces people drool over, and more or less the price reflects that. So
Sure.
It's amazing. So you mostly buy from auctions, right? Or how like percentage like private deal versus auctions?
Yeah, I pulled back now, significantly. Yeah, so I've had a lot of changes in my life. When I was buying this, I was single, my late 30s, successful business, opened my own business, and been successful with it. Um, didn't have children. Now I have children, I have a house, a mortgage. I didn't have those things before. So the funds have dried up in that. I can do like one big one a year, and like most recently there was a randomly Michael Myers auction for Yorkie. So it was like Yorkie-thon 9. And it was a flashback mask. I love the look of the mask in those ones. I actually said as before, I was talking about the look. I don't really like the look of a lot of the Michael Myers masks. Also, it's from like so it's a tearing material, so it's like um to me, it's like a little more cautious to how much you'd invest in that versus like a decent mask that is going to probably hold up no matter what I do with it, as long as I don't get into sunlight. Um, but this was a unpainted, but one of only 5. And I personally talked to Christopher Nelson, who donated this, who was the maker of the mask for the Halloween trilogy that most recently came out from 2018 on. And I had the Kills outfit with it. So I really wanted to match it. And it was not really known. So I feel I got it for a steal, but I had to like sell things because of that I didn't normally want to do to be able to get that. So normally I'm probably gonna get like one item a year from auction. If even right now I'm probably good for a little bit unless something crazy happens. Um and then private deals. Like you start to know when people know you're the horror collector, then they need to make we know this. People need to make maybe money fast and life changes happen. They have to upgrade or they need to sell because of a medical expense. Being someone that's a horror collector, someone that's really good, that's it's you don't want to sometimes post for the trolling and then the kind of the fact that people asking all the time to buy your collection, but there's also sometimes being known a little bit. You get offered pieces from other more like there really is like a small group of people that really collect at that level. I mean this, and the other ones are private. Who knows what they are? Museums or um, a, a celebrity, even right? Like who knows?
yeah,
So it really is like 10, 20 people that are at this like high level horror collectors. I think, um, and knowing that you're like a legit buyer, I think to hold some credence that people will like make a deal with you fast. Right.
yeah, and that's the thing too in the groups. only like mean like, the movie props group, for example, there's like over 50,000 people in there, and only a handful of people show what they have. So it's interesting. It's curious. A lot of flies in the wall, and you don't really know what's out there. What eyes are on your post, which is it's kind of. I mean, it's interesting. I think it's very interesting, and adds a curiosity level to it of what is that piece out there? Maybe he has this, and or where are things? So it's always interesting to see what gets posted in that group for better or for worse. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, sometimes half of it is like, that's why I've got lots as well in this wild hobby. It's kind of like, say it's fun, but it's like a little bit fun sometimes to see like what happens.
Oh yeah, it keeps things interesting.
Yeah, that's for sure. Do you have any pieces that you missed that you sold in the past? You feel like, oh man, I wish I had that still.
Yeah. I more regret like I had an opportunity to get things and I couldn't do it. And I put things on hold. There was things that were offered to me that I wish I pulled the trigger on. And if I didn't buy so many things in the beginning, I would have. I didn't realize people were going to come to me with stuff that I like, and it would have been better to buy them at an auction. So, even in all honesty, some parts like the price I spent on this one Jason mask, it was like my real first like big entry, and I'm gonna love it. I would never get rid of it. I just like I'll probably get rid of it when it's like I'm ready to like go and be in a walk or something. So or what I told or like it's time for somebody else kind of thing at like 20, 30 years when it still has some value. But I probably could have bought 3 private masks for that price. You know, and from what has been offered, yeah. So it's like it's a little bit of like regrets because I had the funds, but then at the same time, I was like, I needed to have that to be serious and get connections. So it's an interesting kind of game there. But um, I mean, I truthfully, I'm disappointed at how much they're increasing the buyer's premiums. Yeah, yeah. So it like they're taking somebody that I know somebody that is just like me, and we're like not even going to the auction as much now because of it. If they kept them at 20%, I would be more in the auctions, I think. So, I think it was a mistake, to do that a little bit. I also think that there's been as I've been doing it, um, I've been disappointed sometimes with some auction houses, making mistakes on my COAs, and then I sold a piece, and then they're going to them and saying, "You didn't have this stamp here or initial, and I didn't look at it enough." And they're saying, "No, we won't do that again." And I'm talking to them and saying,
Oh wow.
"I bought it, you sold it to me, and you made a mistake and missed a signature. And now I sold it. Now this person wants that. You should do that." They go, "No, we won't do that." That's been frustrating. So yeah, yeah. So those kind of things are odd a little bit. So I think, yeah, these kind of things have kind of brought me out of walking houses a little bit more, even though like some of these pieces, there's no way I would have got because people would have sold these without going to auction.
Yeah, and that definitely. That's actually going through that. What was I gonna say? But yeah, I mean, it's you touched on values, 20, 30 years from now. So what's kind of your take on it? Do you think obviously COVID on prices have skyrocketed. Do you still think prices will exponentially increase, or you think they'll kind of cap off, or flatten out, or maybe even the bubble will burst at some point?
Yeah, so I have a different view than I think others side. And it's like a little negative, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
I'm okay. Um, I think if you really look at, let's use example of like Lawrence of Arabia, okay, or uh, movies of the '60s, um, uh, especially TV shows. So that because that was really the big Batman. Yeah, like there are certain pieces they're still going high, but if you actually look, the numbers are kind of like dropping down a lot now. And I think in 10 years, like I'll say this: do any of you have a desire really to collect from that decade, those decades? No. Okay, so and I think what's coming, and that's fine. This makes me sad more than anything else. But so do you guys have kids?
Nope. On the list though. It's
Yeah, yeah. So I have kids now. Um, they're not watching TV shows and movies in the same way. No, they'll do it with me because I want to do that. And I'm sure there's some people, but there's some people that don't even care about, like, most of my friends my age go to like one movie a year in theaters, and that's it. I'm going to see Black Phone 2 tonight.
Nice. Hell yeah.
I see, um, 4 movies a month in theaters. And I know, Dan, you go a lot, and I'm sure I've seen.
Oh yeah. I have it's a rental pass. I go every weekend.
I have the Cinemark, pass. I remember when they did Movie Pass. I bought that and like destroyed that company to work for them. Not like they were like they didn't understand how much people like us would go. But I honestly am not sure it's coming. But they're gonna want to collect this stuff. Yeah. So I think there will be, and then maybe you're gonna get, but like it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be less. I think there's gonna be less. I think what's coming is like there's gonna be AI where they're gonna be like, show me a movie about a bank robbery in the 1950s with a twist at the ending. And I believe they're going to say that out loud. And in my lifetime, that will come on screen. So I don't think they care about actors the same way because they're not growing up with like the scripted television in the same way. I think great stories will break through. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think movies like Weapons, look how well that did, and stuff like that, right? So I think there will be movies made. I'm not sure if they'll always be seen in the theaters, but I am definitely concerned that it's not like that kind of collecting because it's such a nostalgia based form. It's not like it's not the same, I think, as like the Mona Lisa in some ways. I think I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it. And I think there will be always somebody that like they make more Jason movies. I think those ones, but anything that's not the most iconic, that's what I was talking about before. I referred to like Hard Eyes or your Thanksgiving. And I really feel like in 30 years that isn't going to be even valuable at all. Almost. Yeah. So I think you would have a window. Maybe you get lucky, but there's so many auctions now. And so it's a lot easier to get stuff from your favorite movie too. So it's like, I don't know. I just think, I think there's a shelf life for this stuff. I think, I consider that, like probably like how long I'll keep it, cause I think some of the value, I wouldn't want it to completely go away, completely. And things that if I thought they weren't going to give me like much value versus like rather keep it, I'll probably keep it forever. And whatever my kids do with it. But, like I have like, the Pennywise bust. I know like almost no one has a screen used one with the wig. So I think that one's like I look at that, I'm like, that's really, really valuable, I think.
Yeah.
Look at the Conjuring book. I'm like, there are people that the Conjuring will be there Friday 13th. It's such a big franchise. So I think that I'm like, I got it for steal, I think, and I think that will be really, really valuable. I think I don't know. Descent, Barbarian, I think will be the scariest movie. Will somebody want to be like pay $4,000 for, which is even with inflation, I think like 5,000, 6,000. It's hard for me to believe that I think it will go up that much in value. I think it really the iconic things, even then, I think they might have a shelf life. I don't know. What do you guys thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, a title like, for instance, something that transcends generations, Star Wars, right? So what was the first film? 77. So from 1977 till now, they're making films, and that touches how many generations? So I think, you know, I think obviously the pieces from the original trilogy will always, hold the value you can see from an X-Wing or Medal of Yavin or Chewie's crossbow. Those things are always gonna go crazy. But, someone I don't know, people who are buying those, they're older adults. They're old. They saw those films in theaters, so they have the significant amount of disposable income to spend on that stuff. So if you have someone who's I don't know, I'm 29, so someone my age who grew up with the prequels, which there's a lot of hate for them. Are they going to spend six figures, seven figures on a piece of a Star Wars prop from the original trilogy? Maybe not. Maybe they're going to spend that on a I don't know a Count Dooku lightsaber or Mace Windu lightsaber from the prequel. So I think it's prices are going to be determined probably by the generation of buyers who have the disposable income. I mean, look at crypto. A lot of times we joke it's like when somebody goes for crazy amount of money in an auction, it's like the Lone Ranger hat that was in the last Propster auctions, over $300,000 plus. Like, was that crypto money, or did someone really just want that? Um, so it's always interesting to see prices, and I think it's definitely, titles that transcend generations will always do well. Like you said, Friday 13th, or Star Wars specifically. But that's just my 2 cents. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the most iconic stuff will always have the value. It's like an artifact, like Ruby Slippers and Wizard of Oz, and these iconic films like original Star Wars and stuff like that. It's only gonna go up, I feel like. But this other stuff that's not really, that iconic, that's kind of hit or miss. I feel like it'll be challenging in the future to, sell and see where the prices go.
Because I think there's always the chance that you have like somebody that has a lot of money and they just happen to like
Yeah.
market it perfectly. It's seen like I think that's what really happened with the Jason Mess. Like, and that was happening. There was a Pennywise production made and not even painted post-production bust that was blasted on their like Propster Facebook things. Which they did that's a great job on that. And it went for like $50,000. And mine, when I bought it, which was like within a year of that from Julian's, was 7,000. Yeah, and it wasn't painted pro production. And so, and I didn't have that had a replica wig. So, if you're the right marketing, but the thing is, there's so many lots now, and that was even when I've talked to Propster about certain things, the values, like I would be nervous, like they would really push it enough. Like if that's in the same one as the Evil Dead Necromonicon, which one they're going to push, and so the one they push is going to they do well. If you look at the ones that they're like highlighting, those ones do well. Yeah, the one they're touring with, they know that those do well. But if you don't get that kind of promotion for it,
Yeah.
I think less eyes are on it. I literally got into prop collecting because of their advertisement. That mask. So I didn't even know you could really buy them. I guess it kind of thought maybe you could, but I didn't know it did. It was like you just had to sign up and you can just pay. You can buy this. And that idea that it was that close to getting it, that was insane to me at first. I was like, "What? This is this easy to get?" Like, and I know it's something obviously not easy because of the money, but I'm saying like it's attainable versus like
Yep.
it's a dream. Like like we're just talking about the podcast of what we can get. So but I think you'll have like somebody 60 years old, maybe, even older, and be like, I've always wanted a Jason mask. I think we'll get it, maybe. And if there hasn't been a lot in the market. But I think what you saw, and this was kind of was hard, is that I saw when I stopped bidding on the Jason mask, the value dropped like half. I looked at myself, I was like, I was helping this go up. Like, I should be written a check almost. I think like for how much I was helping it. Because it was a part 6 stunt mask, which is one of the most favorite films in the franchise. And it went for like 30,000. And I thought that was a steal for how it looked awesome. It was authentic, and especially he has this, the history on it was great. You have a one that was from one of the least favorite movies used for 1 second on screen, for 250,000. Yeah, so it's a wild range. I don't think some of these. I don't know. I think we can always say like just like a housing crash and bubble and then it goes down. I think there will probably be another time where there could be like a pandemic like situation and it blows up again. A lot of people have like it's a real like like an internet boom. Like there's people who have a lot more money to spend, and I think you'll see that it boom again during that period of time if their auction houses are smart and promoting it. I think the fakes are hurting it too, though, a little bit. So, if I knew about the fakes as much, I would have been like as a little bit more cautious, I think, in terms of like, sure, get into this and put my money into it. There's been a lot of auction houses that have had like promotions on things that they had to then retract. And I think it hurts the outside non-movie pop collector or prop or collector that wants to get into movie props. I think it hurts it because you really, if you don't have friends in the community and stuff like that, like how would you really be able to authenticate this stuff other than calling it the prop store or calling into auction houses like Heritage? I'm not gonna just say prop store, Heritage, Studio Auction, or Julian's, whatever, whatever you want to say, BB, and saying, how do I know? And they're like, well, we got this from a crew member. Okay.
Yeah.
That's literally what I got, and I'm like, oh, I got to dig deeper, that now. I would not. I almost like find myself going like okay, but it's a little bit more nerve wracking if without like LOAs now, and even with the props sometimes, or screen matching, obviously, these kind of things. So, but you can't get everything in screen match. So, yeah, I think it's a challenge.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you're in this hobby, it's once you first join, you're on an island more or less, and then once you get connected with people, you have your circle of friends that you trust, you bounce ideas off of, and you build a network who can help you out. But yeah, like you said, unless you know, it's tough to, it's you gotta do your research. That's at the end of the day, you do your research and know what you're buying.
And that's with right. That's like one of the rules, right? That COAs, once a month, there's someone that's like COAs don't matter, kind of thing like that. But then for most people, they want it, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
to say like it doesn't matter at all, they don't. If you're never going to sell, sure, you know what it is, that's fine. But if you sell it, you have to have some tracker. And I do think places like Prop Store, as are consigned and other things like that, they do a pretty good job of making sure, hey, where did you get this? Yeah, and if you um can't answer, I'm sure there would be a pass. Yeah, for that.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the auction houses, this is not a biased answer because I used to be employed by them, but they definitely do. Out of everyone, I think they do a really great job with doing the research, and they really care about what they're putting their word behind. And I believe too, still their policy if you buy something at an auction and you end up doing your own research and finding out that it's not what it was, or it's they'll refund you your money, which I think it's really great, and it goes to show you what their how much confidence they have in their teams at the London auction and London House as well.
And they all make
So
mistakes.
yeah,
And I think,
we're human.
yeah, I think even this is the hard part. I think people have in their collection mistakes they don't know. And I think that's the next hardest thing. That's like a challenge for this, like, you know, it seems to be like Pokemon cards and things like that, and the grading of the like a first edition. It seems like there's less ability and like more standardized. Like this is definitely this. Um, this can be like I was disappointed. I saw that there was some stuff coming out from like the Friday 13th franchise from a crew member that sold a lot of stuff and made a lot of money on it, and then he like now here's some more machetes and here's some more. It was like. mm,
Oh wow.
other letter of authenticity said that you only had 4. Now that how are you producing 6 coming from you? And I know they're coming from that person. So maybe there is. I mean, like even Lowe's best,
Yeah.
w- I thought there was like there was a Chucky doll, a Child's Play 2 doll that had a lot of controversy that was in a prop store auction recently that I always wanted to actually acquire. Okay, you might remember this. Yeah, it was a famous doll. There's a lot of controversy with this doll now. But uh, the maker of the doll said he was right. It did not have the insides of the mechanics, but he said it was a factory line doll. And I know for a fact that was like the aging of that was not of it was the urethane that was made for the puppet. So and the timing, it was at Universal Studios and the history was pretty good. So to make them say it was a factory doll was like it's kind of sad because the actually the crew member wasn't saying it was correct. So then now we got crew members not always saying what it is because they made their own intention. Like hey, who knows? So yeah, like they just they don't want it to get out. They don't like that this is getting out. Obviously, there was some anger that it was out, from the effort to stop it. But I don't think it was completely accurately then redescribed. I don't think it was what as it was described either. It wasn't maybe talked about the work that went into it. But it was interesting. It kind of killed the value of that doll. That is a really rare doll actually in the horror collecting community. Um, so that was an interesting thing. It was easy. You can search in the movie props groups like Child's Play 2 doll. And, it has a long history, but the doll is a legitimate. It matched. There's like parts of the hand that match to a part in the screen, and it's shelled in a way that it was over like a made post production frame, but the actual outside and the hair and the coveralls out match the hero outfit for the whole movie. And
Oh wow.
yeah, and there was like outfits that are production made, not even seen on screen, that sold for like, $10,000 before. And this doll, um, still was worth more than that. Yeah. So, yeah, interesting. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I think there's a lot of challenges, um, to that. And I hope, my hope is that like there's like a lot of influx, all this stuff happens. And I think it kind of will, I think what would happen is maybe the value isn't always like going up, 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 up. But you're going to see like a leveling off, and there's less like controversy. There's less like the things just come out. We know more about these props. I think the more that that they come out from people that own them, or the actual like, like prop houses, I think we'll know more. We can like then kind of get rid of like, we have more standardization from the fakes, and then other people that are out there saying there's something they're not.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised there isn't a like for card grading. There's PSA, and surprised there hasn't been a company come out that it's a prop standard that's a prop verification company or something that's industry standard that people's like, oh, it's just certified by X, I don't know, screen matching, pros or something. An example of a company, it's one that all auction houses use.
I saw a
I don't know.
Gastin company that did it. The one with Steve Aoki, they were doing something like that on their website.
Oh, really?
They were saying that like you could bring it in and we'll validate it. The challenge with that is like, to that's the matter, do that. That means that prop house is already like, usually they need like almost like a decades long history of like, they don't ever get anything wrong, right? That's
Yeah.
that's what's always challenging with this stuff. But I think if you have a long enough standing prop house, I don't know why Crop Store or Heritage doesn't have like a division doing that. I think people would care about that and look at that more, especially the standardized way of like thinking, okay, it's like a screen match, we're good. Or it's like, and then it's like, you could almost like have a log in auction houses of like, this was here before, and we know this. We have standard. So when new stuff comes in, you can actually compare it. I think that's probably what they have trouble with is like, it's an obscure movie maybe, and it's like, it doesn't story match. And then they're like, okay, they make so many multiples of this. Is this part of this? And they're trying to piece all this information together. And I think with any auction house, then things can like fall in the crack a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, and speaking of that, this is just like one piece. It's like this piece could be not a high value item. It could be one item out of 1,000 lots in an auction. So it's like, how much time do you really want to invest in the piece? But also, so you want to make sure it's right. So it's again, goes back to balancing act. Because it's a lot. I mean, like putting auctions together, it's not easy. You have a photo team, you have a marketing team, you have an intake team, you have a consignments team. It's a lot of moving parts, and you're under a time crunch to get these things shot, get them out, get them everything shot. You have to put the catalog together. Get the catalog, has to go to print. Have to print the catalog. Have to ship it. So it's really a lot of stuff. Get the stuff posted on the website. So it's really a lot, and it's definitely a stringent time crunch to get all this stuff done. It's remarkable all these auction houses get things done on their timeline, especially with these numerous auctions now happening more frequently.
Like 4-day auctions. Yeah, it's too much.
It is. It's impressive. It's interesting how they have drawn it out. Sometimes I think they are really long some of these days. Yeah. It's a little bit you know it's an interesting thing, and I said that it does seem like the like new stuff to market, never been before, does well. Does seem like the repeating things are like not being sold at their estimates. And I even look at there was a Candyman hook that was really cool. Sold in the pandemic, kind of like one of the big auctions they had. I think it was like the one right after the Jason goes the hell mask blew up. And then the most recent auction, a really nice piece from a friend of mine, Charles, was trying to sell, where it was like the hook plus the full Acosta robe. It went
Oh yeah,
for
yep.
similar pieces as the cost of like um the just the hook itself. So it's yeah, it's just interesting. It's been a lot of opportunities recently. So I think I don't know. It just, even me as a collector, it's like almost like I hate to say, like, it's almost like too much. Like, it's I'm glad I'm at a point now where, so I know you have this affiliation, with Muppets and things like that, and just nostalgia for it, I guess you'd say.
Yep.
So Jim Henson is doing a auction now, the studios with their stuff. Like, if I sold Mission,
I'm surprised.
yeah,
I'm surprised.
then that stuff never comes out of that. I love the Muppets growing up, even though I know the horror stuff kind of seems like it's opposite, but so that's wild. But it's like, somebody can just do a collection just from that auction. But if you didn't know that was coming, like, last year was the Planet Hollywood auction. It just seems like there's like, I think if you're a new collector, you should know, like, there's something around the corner, literally every, I can even say this, because this is gonna be after the fact. There's a Nightmare Before Christmas, cool stop motion, Oogie Boogie snake that was screen used, coming out tomorrow. And I plan to kind of look at it a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, it's not even like one of the main auctions in Heritage, and it's like it's just like it's just so like when I first saw my first Nightmare Before Christmas piece, I'm like, I'm never gonna see another one. I just think that patience matters. Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that comes out that you gotta have some discipline. You have to have some, or else you're just gonna be all over the place. And then sometimes you then look at this stuff and you're like, make sure you're displaying it. That
Yeah.
I just that's why I went all horror, because I couldn't display all of it. It just too many costumes for me. It was like, so it was like I got a loft, I got enough room, everything's displayed. I don't even have that much more space, to be honest. Yeah, so it's like I have like one or two major pieces, maybe like a Freddy Krueger glove that would go in, or something like big I could put in like a little mantle, but I put shelves, but it starts to get too busy. So it guess goes up to personal taste. Like, some people like behind me like 50 shelves, and it's just like it's like, crazy. And I actually, I think that's kind of awesome, because you kind of be like, wow, dude, that's insane. Like, that's so many. But I liked the Planet Hollywood feel. Like, you walked in and you could like, I like the acrylic displays. I like it behind glass. I like it not to be stuffed. I like the museum facing it. Yeah, yeah, I like that display to that. Um, I know I saw your Austin Powers ones on the last episode and how they're displayed. There's not like a million things hanging on top of it. Like, you don't have that plus like, like a book, a penis pump or something like that. You're like all over it. You have it like, it could be like just crazy, So I think you need to let these pieces breathe a little bit, or else people can't even like look and see, oh crap, that's that, so I think, kind of rambling here, but I just, my advice would be, make sure you can eventually display these, because you just keep collecting, going to the next auction, next auction. There should be a plan to see these things, or else they're just gonna stay in your closet, and you kind of be like, oh man, I didn't. There's a high part of it, like, to buy these things sometimes, and I think, it's like, you control too.
No, there are some collectors that I know that they have so much stuff. And, for example, there's this one person that I'm trying to purchase an item from. He doesn't know where the item is. And I was like, well, how many pieces do you have? Like, oh, I have over 10,000. And so it's like, of course you don't know where it is because you have so much stuff. It's insane how people just get into this like obsessive, like buy, 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 and never sell anything. So, and then it grows. And at this point, you don't even know what you have anymore. It's like you have so much stuff that, oh, I forgot I have this piece. Oh, I didn't know I have this. It's like, that's the little, extreme in my opinion. It's like you have to know what you have in your collection at some
Yeah.
point.
Sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Andrew, earlier in the conversation, you mentioned timing, and timings with the auctions. It's just like, for instance, Jim Henson auction with Julian. It's like last year, 2 years ago, I toured the Creature Shop in New York, and actually Karen Falk, who's kind of the poster person for Julian's, she's doing all the articles and whatnot for the auction. She's head of the Henson archive. She said, at the time, I asked her, like, you guys have any plans to sell this stuff? And she said no. And to, lo and behold, here we are, 2 years later, they're having an auction with a boatload of pieces. So it's, timing of auctions, timing of being offered things, and it's, make sure you like what you're buying, because who knows what's coming
Then
tomorrow or, next
no,
week.
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, I was gonna ask if Dan is like, are you really excited about the auction because you're gonna, be interested in buying something from it or?
And well, in my head, I am excited. I have optimism and hope, but in reality, I have a feeling a lot of people are going to come out of the woodwork for this auction. because Henson puppets and Muppets in and of themselves are rare. Props for sold the Gonzo for earlier this year, from Muppets from Space, and did pretty well. But this is gonna have, I think, over 80 puppets. I might be misquoting the number. 80 puppets, or over 80 puppets will be in the auction. So this could go crazy. There's a few smaller things I saw in the preview video that I do like. So who knows? We'll see. Yeah.
And they're smart to do it like this, because I feel like if they did like one a year or part 1, 2, and 3 of this stuff, I feel like you get the beginning buyers and they all go crazy, and I think they're set and they go like, I feel like it's doing them all at once. You would think, okay, there's so many puppets, but it's like one buyer might try to buy them all, kind of thing, or like, or
Yeah.
so they just it just brings out. I think that's all I have with the Friday 13th stuff, and it just I think doing it all at once is actually going to be more crazy for it, which sounds insane. Versus actually, they only do like 30 puppets for 3 different auctions separate. I think it would be there's like a fatigue, or there's a new auction that comes up. Like, I already got my stuff or wait for that. I think it's really a first market. I think it'll be insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Especially if we get, Peter Jackson is going to get involved probably, then it's going to be forget it. Nobody will get a chance to buy anything from that sale, especially for the major pieces at least. It's like he attempted to bid in a lot of like a Greg Jean auction and Planet Hollywood. So it's like if there's anything he's after, it's like nobody gets a chance to get any of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, because
So,
before now, it's you can only really see these things in museums, so it's definitely a rare opportunity. And plus, the timing is interesting too, because I believe that auction is on the 25th of November, which is 2 days before Thanksgiving. And there's also the prop store auction the following week, the London sale. So it's interesting, and I believe Heritage has a sale, and it's beginning of December as well. So it's interesting too. I mean, more auctions, people have to narrow down what they want and set a budget. So it'll be interesting last half of the year.
yeah, but I feel like the Jim Henson one is going to be like a special event. It's going to be like Planet Hollywood, be the auction of the year. I feel like this is going to be major, like, because the other auctions can be repeating the same stuff that we've seen before. It's just going to be a typical another, auction house auction like Heritage or Prop Store. But this is going to be like something unique that nobody saw ever in a lifetime. So I feel like this will definitely be the winner for the next like 2 months of the auction world.
Oh yeah, 100%. So it'll be good to see.
Yeah,
It'll be good to
we
see.
can cover that. Should be fun. Yeah.
Be good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this is a nice. It's been great. It was over an hour now. So, Andrew, kind of as a parting advice, do you have any parting advice for aspiring collectors or kind of just people in general in the hobby itself?
Yeah. Meet people that are experienced. I think that matters. They can guide you. There's a lot of people that are have really good intentions, love the hobby, really passionate about it. Even if they're not even in the genre you'll collect, they'll give you advice. Don't go into debt. I think that is insane for this stuff. Buy what you can afford. I think that's really important. Talk to some people that are have to sell stuff because they're like really like going to debt for the stuff. Don't risk a mortgage payment. These kind of things. I think now it sounds silly, but there's like a dark side to this stuff sometimes when you're
Yeah.
you have to know your personality. Are you a collector, or are you actually addicted to collecting? So I think looking at that and ultimately, yeah. Collect what you love. Don't only look at it as an investment. Not everybody can guess iconic things. I'm happy. I'm so spoiled and lucky, but I worked hard to get these things, so for sure in my life. But you can have a collection with uh 5 um $500 props each, and that could be awesome in a movie theater because that's from that your favorite movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, like you can get a poster that's done from the production, or cast signatures on it. So I think you don't need to have the craziest thing, So I think use the forums, use the groups, and get what you love, but be focused. Yeah, and happy Halloween, everybody.
Very well said. Everyone, stay spooky. And that was a great episode with Andrew Merget. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Guys.